Welcome to Movie Time Machine, where we take movies from the past and review them in the present. Today, we're going to do a special episode to talk about our reactions to the latest Rise of Skywalker trailer released at the D23 Disney event. I'm your Time Machine host, Chad, and joining me today is my co-host, Jamie. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Chad. I did not get invited to D23.
Anyway, Jamie,
someday perhaps.
Someday. We're dreaming. So, Jamie, we have kind of discussed off the air recently about kind of our lack of excitement for the Rise of Skywalker movie. And so my first question is, after watching this recent trailer, has this moved the needle for you in excitement, or still the same?
Well, that's a good question. And I feel like we should point out, too, right away that we are both very much Star Wars fans, right?
Yes,
Is that
indeed.
fair to say?
Yeah, that's probably why it's just me and you right now.
Right. And I certainly know that your fandom exceeds mine, but I was a fan of the franchise ever since I was probably 8 years old. So when I say that I'm not excited, I'm not saying that just to shit on Star Wars.
Right.
I'm saying it as if, my daughter did something to really disappoint me. I
Right.
love her a lot.
Right.
And so I'm extra bummed and upset that I'm not excited about what I'm seeing. Action. I mean, for me, it's kind of, and it's hard to tell with the D23 trailer. We'll have to wait for the next one because they included the intro package from the franchise, with the prequels and the original trilogy, oddly leaving out Rogue One and Han Solo, but I digress. So it's tricky to understand what to make of that and then have a movie trailer within it. It's almost as if, well, I guess their statement there is saying that we're concluding everything with this final movie. At least that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, it's like they lean really hard into that nostalgia. It's like the first, you don't see anything from the new trilogy until like a minute 15 into the trailer, which is kind of crazy. And we don't really, we don't really get a lot of new footage then after that, which we can get into a little bit later about the trickery of the trailer, but
yeah, and I suspect they're doing that to course correct for The Last Jedi because, as we know, as that was pretty well received critically, a lot of the fans were not happy about that movie. That was, prequels notwithstanding, I think that might have been the most negative reaction to come out of a Star Wars movie in a long time. So
yeah, I think,
it's,
even if you try to follow the trajectory of the story that's being told in The Force Awakens, when we get into The Last Jedi, it's really all over the place. And after the end of The Last Jedi, it's kind of like, is this it? Like, what are the stakes now, like, going into this last movie? And there, like, really isn't any. And we have a lot of questions, but is it relevant? Like, we don't know, like, the Resistance. We don't really know much about the Resistance, the history. We don't really know much about the First Order. We don't know really anything about Rey. Kind of like we don't know what happened to Luke. There's just like so many questions, and I just feel like they have so much to answer in this next film that I guess I'm hoping that JJ finds some way to like course correct and bring it back home from what he started. But my personal excitement level for this is like it's nudged it a little bit, but I just have like so many questions that I'm just kind of going to sit back in my seat with my arms crossed and like hope that my expectations are like subverted or exceeded going into this one. But
oh yeah, so and I think a lot of that stems back to my feelings about The Force Awakens. I did not love that movie, and the fact that we have JJ coming in to land the ship of this trilogy doesn't excite me, as I know it does for other fans. I just felt that The Force Awakens was more of a reheating of the leftovers that the original trilogy kind of laid out. We have a similar plot device with Rey as an orphan on a desert planet who gets picked up and thrust into this new adventure. And for all intents and purposes, they're calling them the New Order and I don't even know what the new word is for the rebels, but it's still the rebellions and the Empire. They're only different in name. So And we have Han and Chewie, friends from the old movie. We got the Millennium Falcon. We have a rogue pilot with a rogue droid with Poe and BB-8. So I guess I don't know. I was just looking for something new. I didn't want a redo of A New Hope. I've seen that movie. I love that movie. I guess I was content with that. I understand it with the mindset of updating the special effects and bringing new fans into the fold. So I guess with that in mind, I'm not a new fan. So I guess the takeaway is maybe that film was just not for me.
Right, and I get the criticism of that first film, but in the same breath, I think that was needed, that familiarity, that series. I think the prequel trilogy was most parts. I think most fans. I mean, the feeling about the prequel trilogy is not very high, and I think this was like something to come back with that familiarity with the Force Awakens. But yeah, I totally see it. Like again, that still leaves us open to those questions of like, what the hell is the First Order? Like, what is the Resistance? And there's no backstory at all given to us about that. So I think that's, for me personally, like when we get to like questions needed to be answered in The Rise of Skywalker, is like, who is Rey? Why is Rey important in this trilogy as the focal character? Like, who the hell was Snoke? And like, why was he so important through like a movie and a half, a movie and 3/4?
Right.
Like, he obviously has to have some sort of importance. Like, he was the leader of like the emperor of like the First Order. We don't get anything there, and I think we have to get some kind of like nuggets, hopefully, in this next film. They say that this is the final episode in the Skywalker saga. Like, what are they gonna like? They need to tell us a lot to make that relevant. Like, is it because Rey is a Skywalker, or is it like because there's some significance, like a redemption of like Kylo? But I'm just having like a hard time. Like, how are they gonna tie this entire saga up in this one movie, with the last movie being poorly received by like Star Wars fans, and again, like Force Awakens 2 is kind of like there's like, I feel like a 50-50 feeling there. Well, how that was received, because that's called A New Hope 2, essentially.
Well, yeah, and I think the question is, with Disney owning as much intellectual property as they do and basically owning movies, this is the question of what happens when you remove the creative mind of George Lucas and it becomes, an institution rather than the product of one person's brain. Because I think that's what happened here is Disney, whoever's running Lucasfilms, didn't have their ducks in a row. They made The Force Awakens. I think you're right. I agree with your point that you might need that baseline to bring fans into the fold and reground us in a story. And as bad as the prequels were, I only defend them so much. They have a soft spot because I was pretty young when I saw them, but I acknowledge that they are bad movies. But what they did have was a narrative through line from George Lucas's brain, and this just doesn't have it. If it's there, I don't see it, because, like you said, with the original trilogy, we started to get answers in Empire. Okay, who's Luke? He's a student who needs training. He's going to Dagobah to get the training. Who's Darth Vader? Why does he hate Luke so much? Oh, it's his dad. Okay, I get it. Now we have some strife, we have some conflict, we have some answers, and we begin to have, the picture of some resolution that will come in the next film. And I just think that with The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson gave us a lot of resolution where we felt we didn't need answers. I guess my interpretation of what he did by killing Snoke was, I guess he wasn't important. I guess we don't need to know who he is. I guess this is about, Ben and Rey and the connection that they share. And they, I guess in my mind, more or less got some resolution at the end. They share a consciousness. Ben is the dark side of that. Rey is the light side. And they're coexisting now, unless they ultimately destroy each other in the next film. I guess I just don't know where else to go with the story. I hope I'm wrong. I want to like
Right.
this movie. I really do, but I just, if there's a narrative through line, I don't see it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because like the original trilogy, it's kind of like you had the conflict between Luke and Vader, essentially, and the rebellion and the Empire. In the prequels, you had like the conflict of Anakin and the conflict between like the Republic and the what were they called in the prequels? The like the not the Resistance, the like the droid armies, and I can't remember.
Oh yeah, the Trade Federation or something like that.
Yeah,
They're,
whatever that rebellion was called, but at least those were clearly defined and like were themes throughout that trilogy and the original trilogy. And this one, again, I'm just kind of like, I feel like there was some cool stuff that they brought up in the Force Awakens, and it just has not carried through up to this point. But carry on, like, I just want to see, was there anything in that trailer that like kind of sparked any interest or like curiosity or cool or?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm just trying to think of. So, like I said, I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much checked out from the narrative. So I'm in it for cool aesthetic stuff. Like at least, okay, so give me like a new weapon, a new ship, new planets, new characters, whatever.
A good space fight.
Yeah, a good space fight. Yeah, because we haven't had that. When was the last one of those we had?
I don't know. I feel like in like the newer iteration of Star Wars films since Disney took over, I feel like my favorite space battle scene has been the one in Rogue One.
Yeah,
the fight to get the Death Star plans. I thought the one even in Force Awakens was pretty weak. The space battles were slow and weak in The Last Jedi. So I'm hoping to at least get something really cool out of that. We get like the images of like the Empire fleet with all the Star Destroyers, but there's some speculation to that might be like a part of like a Vision 2. Like there's a cool scene with like the what is now the Resistance fighters like coming out of light speed and arriving what we are expecting is some kind of battle. So that's kind of cool, but yeah, our space battles with like since Disney's taken over has been pretty meh overall.
I would agree. Yeah, I would say most of all, I did like those scenes of all of the ships light speeding into existence. I guess I'm probably just most excited to see Carrie Fisher and what they did with her final scenes as Leia.
Right.
I mean, if I had to pick one thing, I guess it would be that. The whole double saber thing, whatever. Like, Rey's not going to go to the dark side.
No.
Come on. We all know that. Come
Disney's not going to let that happen.
No. Plus, is that... I don't see how that's an improvement on Darth Maul's initial design. If you got to click the device itself before you get the blade out, that's just dangerous.
Right.
You're gonna lose a limb.
Right. That lightsaber definitely didn't go through any kind of product testing.
Right.
Poor QA.
Right. Well, that lightsaber is indicative of this trilogy. I mean, if don't reinvent a perfect wheel. You know, the wheel better be broken if you're going to reinvent it.
Right. Exactly. Have you seen the movie poster for The Rise of Skywalker?
No, I haven't. Explain.
It's quite different. It's for me it kind of takes, well, I don't know, maybe I'm talking to myself here. It looks pretty weak. It's pretty simple though. It's just like really dark. It's kind of like a light image of the Emperor that takes up like maybe the upper half portion of the poster. Then it's looking down. Then it's kind of like the scene where Kylo and Rey are battling on like what I'm assuming is part of the Death Star 2 wreckage, or one of the Death Star wreckage that's on the planet that they come across in the first trailer.
Okay.
But it's, it has like the clash of like the blue and the red. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of because the Star Wars movie posters in the past have had like the theme, like you usually have like your main characters like take up like a larger portion of the poster. Then they have like all the interstitial like characters, like your one-off like stormtrooper character or your one-off alien character in there, and then maybe like a 3PO and R2 image. But yeah, it's completely different from like how our trilogy movies have posters have been in the past. But overall, I think it's kind of whatever. It's a movie poster. I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it.
Right. No, I'll have to check it out, though. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Any reaction to the red-eyed 3PO?
Oh, man.
Does he need some sort of droid Visine?
Yeah. Or is it a virus? It's just so funny because it's meant to suggest that he's evil. Whereas I guess you could make the case with R2 that he might be more sentient than other droids just based on his behavior throughout the films and attachment to certain humans.
Yeah.
You know, for a being that's supposed to operate in binary. So I guess to me it's funny because I guess it suggests some sentience that droids shouldn't be capable of possessing. So maybe on that end it's interesting. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's probably a scene where he somehow, whatever, they give him some kind of like download of some kind of information, and it's kind of, I think again, it's just kind of trickery in the trailer, but maybe he gets like somehow gets like his memory recalled from like the original trilogy before getting wiped. I don't know. I just think it's meant to. It's in the trailer just to kind of trick us, because there was like a poster that was leaked, and I think earlier in the summer, where it had like the traditional looking Star Wars movie poster, and one of the images was 3PO holding Chewbacca's bowcaster.
Oh my god!
And he had like anyway, so I was like, maybe if that is actually coming to fruition in the movie. And I think in the one of the comic book arcs, there's like an evil 3PO droid. Anyway, I digress. I just think it's like just to kind of throw us off in the trailer. Like, because an evil 3PO at this moment wouldn't, I mean, like we need another like side story to talk about and have questions answered within this one movie.
Right. For the one person who's a big C-3PO head.
Right. I knew it all along.
Right.
Or maybe did we get R2 back at the end of any of these movies? I don't remember. Because at the end of The Force Awakens. Oh wait, never mind. We got him back at The Force Awakens when they got like because he's the one that filled in the map to the to find
right.
Luke. All right.
Right. My favorite plot point, by the way, in any Star Wars movie. We're missing one piece of the map. We won't know what it is.
Right.
We'll look at the rest of the map, and there you go.
Right. Just somewhere in there.
Right.
But it's unknown, and it could be a vast part of space, and you can't light speed through it because you might crash into something. I think that's part of it.
Oh, I guess if I had one true curiosity from everything, I guess it would be who's the Skywalker, and I think that's the point. That's the question they want us to ask: the rise of Skywalker. Right. Which one? Because it's Ben or Rey, or they're related, which would require some serious mental gymnastics to retrofit to this story. But I think it's supposed to suggest that Rey's a Skywalker. So I'm curious to see how they stick that landing, because
something I just thought about today was maybe it's the rise of Kylo as a Skywalker, since he's the only one that's really alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're assuming that they somehow send Carrie Fisher off since she's gone. Like,
right.
But yeah, who knows? Like, I mean, what else are they going to do? Like, are they going to bring Luke back? Are they going to bring Anakin back? Is like one of the theories I had read that Skywalker will be like the new like kind of Jedi. So it's like a plural use of a Skywalker.
Sure.
So that's like whatever the balance between the light and the dark, but
sure. Yeah, I guess the question in the Star Wars universe where no one is really dead is when is someone dead? I mean,
right. Right.
It'll be well because Luke has Force sentience, so it's not unrealistic to see him again.
Right.
And maybe that's Han's fatal flaw of not learning the ways of the Force is he's dead.
Right.
But yeah, because yeah, in the original trilogy, every time we get a dead Jedi, they're not gone. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker. Is that it? Yoda. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. We'll probably see Luke again. So what would be weird though is they do the Vader helmet sound, and he died as a Jedi. He didn't die as a Sith.
Right.
So that would require further explanation, especially if we see Palpatine again, because again, that would retrofit the entire thing we know about the Sith pursuit to, stop death. Whereas then if they follow that dark mindset to his logical conclusion, their brain is so corrupted they can't. Whereas that's the gift that the Jedi bestow upon themselves, is they don't want it or they don't seek it. That's not the purpose, is to be immortal. And they find that self-actualization along the way. That's their reward for pursuing the light side of the Force, is they get to live on and endure.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with that.
Yeah, just kind of what I'm thinking right now is obviously the prequel trilogy didn't hold up to how fans felt about the original trilogy, and I don't think the sequel trilogy is holding up to expectations for most fans compared to the original trilogy. And myself as like a fan of like Rogue One, and even though I think there's a lot of hate for Solo, I thought that was, for the most part, a fun Star Wars story. I think maybe in the Star Wars universe is like where we're getting the best stories being told are like the kind of like the side characters or like these side stories like within like the window around the original trilogy. And that's kind of maybe why I'm excited for The Mandalorian, because it's not dealing with our beloved characters and we don't have to answer and come up with all these different questions and answers for our favorite characters in the Star Wars universe. It's something on the side and fun, but anyway.
I agree 100%. Yeah. I agree 100%. I can't wait for the franchise to just bury the Skywalker saga forever, and I think that might be what they're doing, because because then we can love it and remember it and have more fun in the universe without having to worry about doing right by the Skywalkers. Because I think of Star Trek, and the Next Generation had a wonderful run on TV and a legion of fans, and it only got weird when they interacted in the movies with the original crew of the Enterprise. That was only when it got weird, was when their mashed potatoes touched Captain Kirk's peas.
Right.
So it's like,
I like that comparison.
I think it would behoove them to do what you've laid out, Chad, and explore more of the Rogue One, Solo, Mandalorian one-off stories, because I had the more fun with those anyway than the new trilogy.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot you can explore in those universes without having to be like hold yourself to like. I think there's like these hard rules too that are like created in that original trilogy, and you just kind of be like free of them. I know there's some things that are weird with like Solo, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about like Rogue One and Solo versus like the trilogy movies. But again, maybe because I'm expecting like in this the sequel trilogy to have some sort of like continuity between them, to have like a better flow, and it just isn't there.
Right.
So
I think that's all I have to say, other than I'm equally pumped for The Mandalorian. I rewatched the trailer, and I cannot believe that they got Werner Herzog, and I think, is that Carl Weathers? It looked like Carl Weathers.
Yeah. The casting for The Mandalorian is pretty badass.
Yeah. It looks great.
And we get Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, as he looks like he's some sort of like stormtrooper general kind of leadership role. It looks like the It's like the Death Troopers, like the all black stormtroopers are in this.
Oh yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, but
You're
that's going to
right.
be really cool to explore.
Agreed.
So just let you know too. I think when the Rise of Skywalker is released in the theaters, I think we're going to plan on doing some sort of present movie review of this film to come out, since at least you and I are pretty big Star Wars fans and have a lot of interest in where this film's going to take us and lead us. So hopefully you'll join us this winter when that comes along. So thank you for listening to this episode of Movie Time Machine. Quick look into the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. Thank you, and have a good day.